I don't even know how to explain it. There's they call it the quickening. They call it the quickening, or in technical terms, there's another term. What is it? The singularity, where everything gets faster on one side because of technology, but on the other side, because as we get older, time seems to disappear. A part of this is the realization that there might be more time in the past than there is in the future. If you look at averages, the average age of a person living in Britain, officially, I don't know if I believe this, to be honest, but officially it's 81. 81. Sometimes 80, but I think it's just around 80. I think in the last year it dropped a little bit, surprisingly, or not surprisingly. So if I look at it like that, then there's more time behind me than ahead of me, and that usually means that.
Same to me.
Yeah, exactly. You know, it's a bit like cars in a race. If you've ever watched like a Formula One race or a NASCAR race or whatever, they get faster through the race. You know, they start off at a certain speed, but as they go through the race, they usually get faster and faster as they go through the race, until they get that last little point is usually a point where they're balancing fuel against getting to the end. So they're averaging their speed at sort of for the last 10 laps, but up to that point, they just get faster and faster and faster as they go through the race, and, like, try to set new lap records, etc. And that's sort of what happens in life, really. It just gets crazy fast. Don't know where I don't know if you feel the same, like between our meetings, but sometimes I feel like our last meeting was just like yesterday. I'm looking. I look at my list of things to do, and you know, I get through it, and I'll look at my schedule, and I'm like, is it Monday again? I'm like, it just feels like I left Monday to go into another day, and now it's back. And now it's back again. It's a very, you know, I wonder if there's more to it, because obviously the time is still the same. I think back to when I was a student. It felt like I had forever. It really did. And the time between, it felt like I had forever, because the time between parties was 2 or 3 days, and oh my God, what to do for those 2 or 3 days between the parties? It was absolutely terrible. It seemed to take forever to get to the weekend. Oh my God. Oh, and now I really don't know. I feel that I feel very easily I could click my fingers and it could be next year already.
And I guess, or I think this is not good. If it's
yeah. Well, would you rather? I mean, would I like to go back to being a student? Well, I don't want to. I don't want to say that the present is bad. I don't want to say that, but that feeling of not having to worry about so much. It's the classic thing. It's the old head and the young shoulders. Yeah, where you know, we always if I could go back 20 years and put this knowledge that I have today on my head 20 years ago, I'm pretty sure I would do everything differently. But that doesn't mean it would turn out right, because you know, life is a lot of chances and challenges and changes of direction. But for sure, it just seems to speed up. And I thought, well, one of my thoughts was maybe that's because as you get older, you have more health problems, and you begin to feel things a bit more, and maybe life becomes a little bit more difficult. But I know myself personally, I'm healthier than I was 10, 15 years ago. Much healthier than I was 10, 15 years ago. I'm not as healthy as I was 25 years ago, but I'm healthier than I was. So it's not that. It's not a question of health, because I'm much healthier than I was, as I said, like 15 years ago. But the time still seems to go incredibly fast. But it's not, because I mean, a second is still the same length, right? The world is not spinning any faster. It's not really happening. It's a very strange thing, and maybe we become more thoughtful and more aware of a lot of things. But yeah, that many people in the modern world have their schedules and agendas and times, and you still can't fit in everything. You still can't. You can't, and not just about work. It's like, oh, I'd like to read that book. funny, right? Because it's just not going to happen for most people, or watch a film or whatever. Which should remind us that we think we have forever, but we don't. Should remind us of that. Yeah. When your kids are growing up, we think, we will be able to teach them that at a certain point, and it's not ever guaranteed for anybody. One of the most classic mistakes that a parent makes is saying, "Oh, we will get to it later." No. There's now, and if they don't understand, well, they'll get it at some point. Give them the ball, and if they don't know what to do with it now, they'll figure it out later. Yeah, but give them the ball now. Always give them the ball now. Like my kids are young, but I saw them at the weekend and had some time with them, and one of our conversations was, there are many different kinds of love. This is a really important conversation to have with your children before they're 10, okay? Before they're 10. There are many different, because this love seems to be one thing as a concept, as a way that society and the media presents it. It's one thing, and it's a good thing. That's the way that it's presented. But the truth is that it's more complex than that, because there are as many types of love as there are apples, for example. Yeah. And some apples are good and some apples are bad. Some apples taste better than other apples. And you can get a good group of apples with a bad apple in it. And you can get a bad group of apples with a good apple in it. It's not just one thing. And we tend to simplify it for all society. So there is a virtuous love, which is good, and there's a very selfish love, which is negative. And we have to be able in our minds, when we meet or feel this love to understand in ourselves, is this a love which is a good positive love, or is this love which is a bad negative love? You know, what is the result of this love going to be, basically? Because it's not just one thing. And so, and it breaks down into, you know, the classic example of and because I was lost when I was a teenager. I was lost in this topic. I'm like, oh, what is love? I don't understand this thing. Girls and boys are confused. And you know, a girl once told me, she's like, oh, I love you. And I said, I love you too. Because I didn't know what to say. Right? Because it didn't feel like, well, I'm not sure if I love you. It didn't feel like that was the right response at the time. So that's, you know, I said, I love you too. But because, and that's completely not understanding what is her picture of love and what is my picture of love, and are they the same thing or not? It might be, but they might not be, because we have information from different sources. And if I say to you, bring a ball to the park, you might bring a football, you might bring a tennis ball, you might bring a rugby ball, you might bring, I don't, you might not have a ball, you might bring a shuttlecock, you know. So our experience and the availability of things and information is going to change how we're able to act and respond and understand things. And we think we have forever to have these conversations with our kids. We don't. We don't have forever to have these conversations. Or the kids need to understand these things when they're young, so that they can apply them to the friendships that they make in and around school, which is which is key. Why is a person giving you something? Is it because they're just being nice, or is it because you've got something that they want? Right? It could be either. Right? There's not just one reason for the action. Maybe someone's just giving. Maybe somebody has an extra banana and they're giving you their extra banana because they have an extra one, and that's great. But maybe they're giving you the banana because they want the apple that you have or something. I don't know. So now these lessons are important, and yeah, I've got my reading list here. I was thinking about that before our session. I was going through. I've got these digital discs with all my old files from 5 years ago and 10 years ago, and I was going through some of the discs, like what's the, you know, because after 3 months I can't remember what's what, you know. Yeah. It's filed away, but I can't remember what it was. And I'm like, oh, I forgot I did that, and I forgot about that. And, oh, I got these books to read as well, and I forgot about that book. And there's a book that I have that I want to read, which is it's called 3,684 Things You Didn't Learn in School. And it's little pieces of information and advice that are important for life that you don't learn in the educational environment. So so there's a lot of things that are key, and life gives us these opportunities to you know, what can you learn from Lego? Well, you can learn everything about society from Lego. Because if you're building a Lego town, you've got to think about how will the town be powered? Yeah. Are we going to have any, you know, will there be fresh water? Where will the food come from? Are there going to be any rules? Are there going to be any laws? What's the first thing you need to build? Yeah. I ask my kids, what's the first thing we need to build? What do you think they said?
House.
What do you think? A house. That's practical. It's not what they said. It's a very good answer. It's not what they said.
So really, children.
Yeah, I know. This is a difficult one. This one. Yeah.
I'm not sure that's playground. But
That's a good idea. I like that. I like that as well. No. There's nothing about a playground there. In my philosophy, playgrounds keep children as children. They're important. Don't get me wrong. Playgrounds are important, but playgrounds are where children remain children. There's there's not much. It's fun, but it's not growth really. The first thing that my children wanted to build was a hospital.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because hospitals are important. If you don't have hospitals, then where are these people going to be helped? And if you if you begin to think about it, it's pretty sensible, because one of the industries with the most common accidents is building. So a lot of builders who would be building the houses would have injuries. And so the hospital would be something practical in an area where there's a lot of construction, because construction workers have lots of injuries. So that was the first thing they wanted to build. And then it all went a bit crazy after that. And then they wanted a park with trees, but then the police came and arrested all the trees and took the trees to prison. So because in the Lego world you can do that for some reason. And then of course my middle daughter decided that after they built the hospital, she didn't like the plan of the city, so she decided that she would build her own island. So despite the fact I'd laid out and built everything for them to build a city, she was like, yes. She's like, yes, but I want my own island. So, okay, build your island, but build a bridge to the mainland, so that people can cross over. But then she was really thoughtful. She was like, yes, but the bridge has to have security guards, because I don't want just anybody on my island. So it's interesting how they view the world, and how you can teach about society. So I mean, you need a hospital, and you need a police station, you need a fire station, you need parks, you need recreational areas, you need, if you have roads, you need car parking, and then you begin to look at sort of town planning and how all the things interact, and then if people work, where do they work and where do they live, and then you build a portal to another dimension. So because naturally, because and then the police station got full of criminals, and I said, okay, so what are you going to do with the criminals now the police station is full? What do you think?
Build another one.
Well, you would think build a prison, right?
Yes.
You would think after the police station is full, build a prison.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. I saw prison.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you meant. Yeah, a prison. Yeah, that was not their solution. Their solution was build a time machine.
Time machine?
Yeah. build a time machine and send the criminals back in time to the Stone Age with the dinosaurs. Right? You see how...
But you know, that still is about children's sources, or where, from which sources they're having these ideas.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You know, because the last idea that you heard is the most prominent thing in your mind. Like the last scene from the film has to be the best scene because it stays in your head. Yeah. If you give a presentation, finish it well, because people will remember the last part of that. They'll remember the end part. But it also shows us. It shows us how fixed we are in our thinking. In terms of, as we get older, we think we know what the best solution is. A lot of the time, we are right because of our experience, and yet we're limited because there's probably not just one solution to every problem. And in my life, many times I thought, this is going to work, and it didn't. And many times I've thought, that'll never work, and it did. And so I'm very cautious about the future because I'm not sure that we exactly understand what the best thing to do is. History is full of examples of people saying, this is the right way. You know, solidarity, and fight the power, and protect our freedoms. And most of these movements didn't really go anywhere. They only created a new set of problems for us to solve. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. So it's a great example of, your example is great because what you did was put an idea into the mind of your daughter, which is really powerful because that's happening all the time. That's not just happening at one point, in one moment. It's happening all the time, all these ideas going into her head and filtering through her mind. And it's powerful and helpful and yet dangerous because all the things that we know that we're not as good at as we should be, well, that's going to transfer as well. And that's a hard realization.